Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Empowered with Gina podcast. Okay, I need to introduce you to my actual sister-in-law, like real deal, Miss Sam Hernandez Ortega.
Hello.
And I say she's my real sister-in-law because we're both lawyers and we're actually both partners at Alder Law. So really, truly, legally sisters-in-law. Mm-hmm. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy you're here. We've been wanting to do this for quite some time. Yes. We're in the same office and same space constantly. And now you're here. We're doing it.
Yes.
Okay. 3 adjectives to describe yourself. Go.
Confident. Sometimes loud.
Hmm.
Fierce.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. Where did little Sam grow up? Where are you from? Tell me about this.
So I grew up in Boyle Heights. I grew up in my grandmother's house, and my mom dropped out of high school at 17. Mm-hmm. My father dropped out at 14, I think.
Wow.
And so I really never saw any professional people in the workforce around us, or if at all, in the hood where I grew up, right, in Boyle Heights. And so really it was always about kind of community in addition to family. And being surrounded kind of with that idea of, okay, well, this is what my family looks like, is right. And it was always about the house. It was always about kind of grandma's house, being there, and a kind of a reminder of how far she's come and where we currently are.
Yeah. Being raised like that, how did your family look at academics or schooling as you were being raised? Were they like, we didn't do it, so you must, or it just was not a big deal?
So I'm the second daughter of the family. And so I think for me, it was always like, your sister goes to school, right? She's 8 years older than me. We drop off sister at school and then we go and we pick her up, right? I don't think anybody told me to go to school. I do come from a long line of very vocal, strong women.
Okay.
And surprise, surprise, I know. But it wasn't anything that was emphasized, you're going to go to school. I woke up one day while the OJ trial was on and saw Marsha Clark prosecuting OJ Simpson. And I said, she looks like a bad girl. I want to be her in a room full of kind of men doing the thing in the middle, right? I thought I could be her for whatever reason. And that was my, okay, so what is she doing and how do I get there? And that was my, I got to go to school.
Did you know of a lawyer before seeing her on TV? Did you know personally of any lawyers?
I don't think so. I was 6 at the time. I'm aging myself. I was 6 at the time. But it was something that I was like, okay, you know, I don't know what this really is, what this looks like, or how to get there. But it's something that I was like, this is what I want to do and I have to do it.
Unbelievable. And it's so interesting about the OJ trial. There's a lot of women lawyers who had the same experience that you're talking about. It was because of seeing that particular trial on TV. They had no exposure to lawyers. They had no idea about the system. But something about Marsha Clark in particular, Marsha, yes, girl, it inspired you. It planted that seed.
It did.
So then you go through high school and then what?
I go through high school, and up until probably the age of 21, 22, I thought, okay, I want to prosecute. I want to be a criminal prosecutor. I want to be a DA.
You knew you wanted to be a lawyer. You weren't like paralegal. You weren't.
No, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer because that's what Marsha was. That's what Marsha did. And I knew, okay, not only that, but I want to be in the courtroom and I want to be in front of a judge. So what's that, right? How do I get there? And at that point, I didn't know about the legal system on the lawyer side. I knew about the police legal system on that side, right? Because that's what, unfortunately, my family had kind of had interactions with the police or whatnot. And so that's what I knew up until that point. I never saw the lawyer part.
You didn't know that there was this whole other like lawyer part of it, lawyer world.
So again, I really kind of knew about the police part, right? If you think about the totality of the interactions that maybe you would have somebody coming from the neighborhood that I came from, right? And what interactions I have with the legal process, for me or for my family, what I saw, it really was the police interactions with the family, right? What you see in the street. I grew up in the 90s. It was gang territory. It was what it was, right? They were pulling people over left and right for whatever reason they wanted. And that's what I saw. I never saw the courtroom interaction. I never saw the legal action. I never saw the lawyers coming to the houses, right, to help people. I never saw that part. And so really seeing Marcia Clark, seeing the entire process of the OJ trial when I was 6, however old I was at the time, really brought to light, oh, there's this other part of the legal system that really interests me. And I don't know what I thought when I was 6, but I thought, I don't know what she's doing, but I could do that.
I want to do it. Do you remember when you were in high school or even college where you had that like light bulb go off like, oh, I need to go to law school. I don't know anyone in law school. You had no one to talk to. So like, how did you find that bridge to connect yourself to that?
I think I asked really early on teachers. So I always excelled at school. School came very easily to me. I was always the one like new things, answering, raising my hand, leading the group. Shocking, I know, but still doing it to this day. And it's one of those that I went and I just asked the teacher, okay, so how do I become an attorney?
Wow.
What do I need to do?
So you just, something in you knew to ask.
I asked.
You weren't shy, you weren't embarrassed?
No, it was, and then I heard almost immediately from my teachers. I remember Miss Scott, 5th grade, being like, hey, you'd be really good at that. You should think about really doing that. Okay.
Something.
And then we had a TA, Mr. Ramirez, who told me, okay, so this is what you would have to do. You'd have to go to high school, get good grades in high school. You'd have to go to college, get good grades in college. You have to take this test. I was just like, okay, I have to take a test. Didn't know it was the LSAT, right? And then you apply and then you go. And I said, oh, okay, I think I have all those steps down. And then I just went from there. And I just was a dog with a bone, never let it go.
And I mean, just it underscores the power of teachers and people that influence young elementary school age children and just how persuasive and impressionable those kids are. And you're quoting and remembering teachers' names and what they told you. And that is just so tremendous because there's so many kids that don't get, one, any kind of feedback, and two, sometimes the negative, the not supportive feedback. And then it's a snowball into an adulthood, right?
Honestly, I don't even know if my parents, I know my mom always encouraged me to stay in school. And she always kind of did push whatever I wanted to do, but I don't remember anybody telling me, you have to go to school. You have to go ahead and go to law school. You have to do these things in order to get where you want to go. Nobody kind of told me that. It was always like a dog with a bone. Like, this is what I have to do to get there no matter what.
Fascinating. Makes you wonder, like, had you not watched that trial, like.
I always wonder that.
Isn't that something?
Gosh. Or if Marcia Clark just wasn't there.
Oh,
right?
My gosh.
Maybe the trial was there, but maybe it was ran by a man, right? That was
Would that
first
have had
chair.
Any effect on you? Probably not. Maybe not.
Yeah,
it was
maybe.
A woman. Oh my gosh. Okay. So then where do we go to college?
We went to UCR. I went to UCR with the idea that I wanted to study English, and everybody's poli-sci major going into law school, right? That's what you kind of do, or your pre-law. UCR had, at the time, now they have pre-law, but at the time they did not have pre-law. They had definitely English and they had poli-sci. So I really thought about, okay, what's going to excel the skills that I need to get where I need to go? And English was always something that I thought, okay, I need to learn how to properly speak. I need to go ahead and learn how to properly write, express myself in order to go ahead and execute my cases. And I remember going to somebody that was in charge of that department and them telling me, you should probably do women's studies. That'd probably be best for you.
Oh.
And I thought, excuse me? Yeah, or Chicano studies. And I said, no. But I didn't even think about it. I was like, no, but I want to go to law school. No. I don't think you want to do that. You should think about something else.
How interesting.
Dog with a bone, though. I was like, okay,
Thank
that's
God.
fine. I'm going to do English and I'm going to go to law school.
Thank God, right? Okay, so then you get through college and then where's law school?
So I did go ahead and do a summer and a half or whatnot internship with a criminal defense attorney out in the city of Whittier. And that I thought was going to dip my toes into what I thought was the calling of being a prosecutor. And little did I know that I absolutely hated the criminal system. I thought nobody's really winning here in my eyes. You know, I see a mom on this side who's crying. I see a mom on this side that's crying. The system is what it is. There was no way that I thought that I could proactively contribute positively to that scenario. I sat attempted murder case that summer, and I thought, this is not for me.
Okay. Which is so important, knowing what you don't want, right? Because
immediately, you're not wasting any time, right? I said, okay, check this box off. I checked it thoroughly, not into it. What else can I do?
Right. And then, so is this when you're in law school?
This is the summer right before this is the summer before law school and the fall before law school.
Got it. And then, so where'd you go to law school?
New England Law of Boston, out in Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. Culture shock.
Love it.
How did that
absolutely
talk about the culture shock? Had you been to Boston before?
I hadn't. I knew for undergrad I wanted to go to law school somewhere in the East Coast. And my mom really was like, you're not leaving. You know, she just
locked the door,
threw the key out and was like, okay.
Why'd you want to go back east?
I just really wanted to experiment and live life on my own and figure out who I was outside of culture and family and figure out, can I make it? What does that look like? Just to really experience something new.
Yeah. So then you go there. It was probably very new.
You know, it was shocking. I think we take for granted how diverse Los Angeles really is. It's not until you go somewhere where majority of people do not look like you and I that it is very shocking, because I was walking around Boston just like I would LA, and I quickly saw, oh, I don't look like everybody else. And people are now looking at me because I do not look like everybody else. And the farther you get out from the city, the worse it gets.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So you did that 3 years, and then you decided to take the bar in California.
I did. I knew I wanted to come home. That was not a question. I knew I wanted to practice here. It was just more so, what was I going to practice? What did I want to do? What did that look like? While I was in law school, I got a clerkship for an attorney, a solo practitioner, because I thought working for a solo at the time would get my fingers into every part of the firm, everything from management right to vendors to liens to whatever. And so that was what I was looking for, was a very, very small office, because they had to depend on me to do motion work, to go ahead and talk to the clients. Everything, you know, from A to Z. Worked for a solo practitioner that was in personal injury and found out, wow, I'm really good at this. I can people talk really well. I understand injuries. And so 1000%, I was like, I think I want to go ahead and start my career in personal injury.
And you can actually help people. I mean, you're not going to repair them most of the time or get them back to their pre-injury, state, but you're able to help versus criminal. There was a no-win situation sometimes.
I felt like I could relate to injured people. So when I was 18, just about to turn 19, I had suffered a mild traumatic brain injury at UCR while I was coming out of my poli-sci class, actually. I hit my head on the pavement twice.
How?
So I was I'm going to age myself again, just jumping on my Razor scooter. My lilac Razor scooter, by the way, because that matters, had just started to go ahead and scoot literally 1 foot in the air. And two girls were just coming out of class, just play pushing each other. At the time, I was about 25 pounds lighter than I was right now. Didn't need much. Just went ahead and smacked right into me just as I had take 1 foot off, right? And just started to take off. Hit my head once, saw black, hit my head again, saw white, blacked out.
Did you have a helmet on?
Nope. No helmet.
Shit.
No helmet. And then it was so bad you could see my bone here, and my cheek got popped open here. You could see my fat cells here. Literally, the plastic surgeon told my mom, she's going to look like a two-face. You need to prepare your daughter. She's never going to look the same.
Wait a minute. Back up. So you have this not only traumatic brain injury, but actual traumatic injury, a facial injury.
It took months for it to heal.
So it's like a laceration, split wide open, which scars, we know scars, right? On the face?
On the face. I was so this is fall semester.
I don't see a scar, by the way. I don't know where it is.
Yeah. So fall semester of my first year of undergraduate.
Jesus.
Awful. And it was like I was missing classes because I was having headaches, tinnitus, right? All of these things due back to hitting my head on the pavement. And that was my first initial introduction to brain injuries, was me suffering one from myself and then going ahead and working later with injured clients still to this day. It's like I can totally relate. And more so, I could also have my family relate and see what my family went through from all of that, because bless Junior. I mean, we've been together such a long time, my husband and I. We've known each other such a long time. And I always say, you know, people that suffer from brain injuries not only go ahead and suffer from them, but their families suffer from them as well, because they are going through it with the injured clients.
That's such a good point. And then some people that have not experienced TBIs, traumatic brain injuries, they can't empathize. Mm-hmm. They just have not had the experience, or they're like, they just hit their head a little bit.
Yeah.
That's all it takes sometimes is a little jolt of the brain and everything gets messed up.
Yeah.
So, okay, wow. So then you seem to naturally find your way into personal injury law, which is law for the accidents and wrongful death, and with the law we do. You graduate law school. You take the bar. Talk about that.
So I didn't pass. I'm proud to say I'm a non-passer. I'm also old enough to remember the 3-day bar exam. That's the one that I took, right?
I didn't pass on the first try either. Look at us now.
Hi. So I knew I didn't pass. I think studying in a different state, I really wasn't attuned with what California needed. California is very specific, as we all know. The state bar is very specific as to how you're writing, how you're developing your answers, your responses, everything, right? So I knew off the bat, I was like, this isn't good enough. I knew I wasn't going to go ahead and pass. I did go ahead and still go, because I was moving back to California, on a bunch of job interviews. And I kept going, okay, what am I doing? I was looking to everything, to family law too at the time, to, you know, you're coming out, you're just open to anything, right? I applied to 11 jobs and I got 8 job offers. Wow. And one of them,
even though you had failed the bar.
I didn't know at that point, but I had kind of told them, hey, I don't think I'm going to pass, just a FYI. But I super hard worker, you know, I'll be a JD, I'll do paralegal work until I pass the bar. Great. So I came across, one of the job offers was at a local Beverly Hills law firm that's well known. And that's where I was for 4+ years. Mm.
And let's just talk about not passing the bar on the first try, because I don't know how you experienced it, but when I experienced failing on the first try, it was like devastation of my life, because all I had known up until that point was success is linear. Success is you have to do it right the first try. If you're not a straight A student, if you're not checking all the boxes, you're a failure. You're not going to do well in life, blah, 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 blah. Now, knowing what I know about how the system is designed and how what is actually true and what is not, and I know you can agree with this, some of the most successful lawyers in our industry went to law schools that no longer exist anymore, 1. And 2, we don't even really know if they're lawyers. Like, it doesn't matter is my point. Like, it doesn't matter on this side of the game. But in that moment, the devastation and the ego, like, kick, how did you process it? Because that was me. I just was devastated beyond.
So up until the bar exam, I'd never failed anything in my life.
Oh, God.
Nothing. Whether that's sports, whether that's school, whatever it is, I excel at most things in life. That's why when Junior and I take a vacation, I will not go ahead and do something new, like learn how to ski or something, because I get super competitive. And if I fail, I'm just upset the entire damn time, right? So up until then, no failure in life. I failed, and I thought it was almost like a death to me. Like, I was just experiencing all of the steps of grief, right? And it's just like non-acceptance, like surprise, everything, right? And it was just shocking to me to see the people, that did pass the bar exam and the people that didn't.
I'm not sorry about that. It surprises me every day, some people who are actually lawyers and who passed on the first try. Let's call it out for what it is. Does not make them good lawyers.
It doesn't. But
you heard it here first.
at the time, you don't know that. When you're in
Nobody
it and you're
knows
in the
that.
feelings, you don't know that, right?
no
And so
idea.
I had a lot of self-judgment. I just kept on doing, if you could hear the things I'm saying in my head to myself
So mean.
about, so mean, right?
So
about
mean to
not
ourselves.
passing. And I was like, okay, so really after the crying, after the yelling, after the initial, all of that stuff, right? All of those steps, I got to a point where I was like, okay, so what's the difference? How did they do that? Because I truly don't think they're smarter than me.
Right.
I know I can do this better. So what's the difference? And it was literally how I was taking the exam.
Yeah, same. I was taking it wrong. I wasn't studying correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I understood when I finally got to
Yes.
that point. But I think this particular conversation is one that's not had because it's still very much taboo if you don't pass. For those of you in law school and those of you going to take in the bar or who have failed multiple times, nobody talks about this. It's taboo. But Sam and I are proudly here showing you, partners at a law firm, started my own law firm. I've taken the road way less traveled as a lawyer, proudly. And that it really is, for me, and I think you might agree, just a bullet point on the journey. And in fact, failing helped me become more stealthy, helped me become hungrier, helped me become more determined.
Hungry, grit, everything. Yeah.
That failure, now I understand, was the greatest thing that could have happened, that lesson. And I proudly, like you, stand by it. And I tell anyone, any chance I get, especially students that I mentor, don't worry about how many times you take that test, the LSAT, whatever the test is, the certification, whatever it is for you. Don't feed into the game. Just do it, pass it, keep going. Don't get caught up in what the system has designed for us to believe in, because it's not true. And we make our reality. We make of it what we will.
We determine our own fate.
Period. Period. As evidenced by both you and I.
Yes.
You see? Okay. We're basically the same person.
We always say that.
We do. Okay. So then you get hired before you find, fucking rude. Who is this? It's a judge calling me. You see what happens? It's really a judge. Sorry, why is that on? Okay, so you get hired by a Beverly Hills law firm before you find out you failed the first time. Then what happens while you're there and you failed?
I was there. I failed. I think they expected me to pass because I think everybody's like, you're in that weird. Well, yes, but it was more like, I think everybody walks out maybe not knowing.
Yeah.
And so they get a lot of, I didn't pass, and people pass. I was like, no, I really didn't pass.
Okay,
right.
Fine.
So I'm on that main roster for for a couple of months. And then I get noticed at work of just how hard I'm working, how quick I'm picking up the California civil procedure, right? Because remember, I studied in Boston. So I knew that back and forth, right? California, I had to relearn all that law, right? I had to learn new law. I had to figure out where I was and what was the burden of proof here and what was I doing, right? And so I remember somebody coming down from the second floor wearing flip-flops, I know, flip-flops, ripped jeans, with like some weird country belt and like a ripped shirt, and being like, I'm sorry, who is this guy coming down the stairs? So he comes down the stairs and he's like, hey, I've heard a lot of great things about you. I'd love for you to be on my team. Like, you don't have to, but, with everybody kind of talking and, I've reviewed some of your work. Because you're laughing because you know who I'm talking about.
Exactly who you're talking about.
And I was like, oh, I was very confused. I had never met him before.
You're like,
that.
Sir, do you belong in this building?
He came from the second floor, and I was just like, who is this guy in the ripped jeans, the ripped shirt, and sandals?
So good.
Just walking around. So then I turned to the person who was sitting next to me. I was like, so who was that? And she was like, that's Nick Raleigh. That's the R in Carpenter, Zuckerman, and Raleigh.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like,
so Nick.
Oh, so then when I figured it out, I think I saw him maybe 2 weeks later and I was like, so that thing you said a couple of weeks ago, I didn't know who you were. I'd absolutely love to be on your team. And I just was placed on Nick's trial team and I learned how to go ahead and work up cases for trial. And I traveled with him to Washington, to Iowa to go ahead and help him go ahead and prosecute those trials.
Unbelievable. And and Nick and his wife, Courtney, who coincidentally, I went to law school with Courtney. So full circle.
Small world.
And we actually met you because Nick recommended you to us. And it's just, again, a full circle. They are a powerhouse, the epitome of like, not only like obviously incredible lawyers, but family people. Excellent way to live a life.
Yes.
Follow those people. And so anyways, full circle moment, but yes. Nick doesn't
a true Nick Rowley moment where it's like, where were you when do you remember when you first met Nick Rowley? And I was like, he was walking down. And so elephant. You
go from Nick Rowley's trial team. Nick calls us and he suggests, because he knew we were expanding, and he calls Mike personally and he says, you need to talk to Sam. And I remember you came to our house. It was in the middle of COVID.
Yes.
You came in and we had just moved in. I don't even think we had furniture because it was COVID. I don't remember. But I remember you came by and obviously highly recommended and clearly smart and capable. But then you walked in and I'm like, she's so pretty. And it is what it is, right? Like the beautiful peacock gets noticed. It just is. That's evolution, Darwinianism. Don't get mad at me.
It works against you in this business, though.
It can. But we've harnessed it pretty well the right way, right? Use the system, play the system. And so I'm like, oh, she's so pretty. And where is she from? My family's from Boyle Heights. She's from Boyle Heights. Anyway, the stars aligned and it worked out. And you started as an associate lawyer?
I did.
You started associate.
So I actually left CZNR in order to go ahead and study for the bar exam fully because I was working so many hours for Nick, which was the best education I could have ever paid for, to be honest. I mean, working for him and working up those trials and being able to talk to him, Haitham Faraj, John Kwai, all of these great trial minds, right? It was great education, but I just didn't have the time to study for the bar exam. So I left within 6 months. I passed the exam. Then I went, okay, Nick, I'm ready to come home. You said I can come home whenever I want. I want to come home. It's like, things are kind of brewing. Yeah. And so I know a very dear friend of mine. He's like, one of my best friends, Mike Alder's looking. He's like, let me put you two in contact. Yeah. And I went to your house and I feel like I was interviewing Mike instead of the other way around. Yeah. And he was like, we'll make this work. For Nick to go on and on about somebody is just unheard of. Like, let's go ahead and see how we can go ahead and make this work. And I started off as a young associate here, working up cases. Yeah. For about a year and a half to 2 years. Yeah. And again, just like your track record, like you very quickly excel, like just in anything you do, very quickly rise to the top. The cream always does. And it just so happened that Mike was at the point where he was looking to bring on partners. And I remember we had the discussions and immediately you were like top of mind because just your ability to not only practice law and do that part, but your ability to manage and lead. And it takes a certain personality and understanding of human beings to be able to effectively lead, but at the same time, communicate with the higher ups, the people managing. And I remember you came to us first and you're like, I have something to tell you. So
I'm like, what?
I walked in. So I think we had some type of celebration. It was the end of 2023. We had some type of celebration, maybe a holiday party or whatnot. Walked in. I think I scared you guys because I was like, we have to talk. Like, I don't know if you guys want to sit or and whatnot.
Like, oh no, what? Yeah. What's happening?
And then I think you guys thought that I was going to quit or giving you notice or whatnot. Very, very frightful faces on them. And I said, okay, I hope, this doesn't change where I'm at or anything that you may have planned for the future or whatnot. I definitely am still committed. You're just like, what? What
is it? Spit it out.
And then I said I was pregnant.
And then I start crying because it's our baby, basically.
Yeah. Exactly what she told me.
Yeah.
She told me that immediately.
This is like our baby. And I said, was it in the same conversation? We're like, well, that's funny because we have something we want to tell you. Or it was probably after that.
I think that happened. Yeah, I think it was a week or two after. But I told you in that moment that I knew it was a girl. We had just found out it was going to be a girl.
Yeah. It was, I want to cry again because she's so beautiful. And she's my goddaughter.
She's a goddaughter.
Yeah. Like I've never been someone's godparent.
I still can't believe that.
I still can't either.
To me.
Can you believe? But now
she's accepting applications now.
But now I am. And about a week-ish later, we called you back in. Okay, we have something we want to tell you. We've been thinking about it.
I was so shocked.
Ooh, we offered her partnership. After she had told us that she was pregnant. So talk about being progressive. Mm-hmm. Talk about promoting the first Latina lawyer to be a partner in a firm of our type and size in California. That is actual fact. Mm-hmm. And we did it. And you were pregnant throughout it all. And it worked out the way we knew it would. I think better than we could have imagined it. And it's funny because we heard the chatter in the background. Oh, you're making her partner, but she's pregnant. And this came from women too. And I'm like, ladies, what are we all doing here? What are we talking about? Because we can talk about it, but when are you going to be about it? We truly believe in what we're standing by, the progression. Why not? Why can't she do it? Why can't I do it?
So we had that event where we were celebrating the newly named partners.
Yes.
And I was 5.5 months pregnant. Yeah. So visibly showing, kind of already announced to the public going to have a baby. And the number one question I got was, well, one, what color? Where did I get my suit? Because my fabulous hot pink suit
so cute
was a thing.
Fashion first.
Of course, conversation always. And the second one was, did they know you were pregnant before they offered you partnership?
Isn't that
and
something?
I said, yes. I was like, I told them immediately before they offered it to me.
Again, her brain isn't going to change, is it?
I had two at that point.
2 brains. She's even extra smart. Anyway, this is a whole thing to unpack in and of itself. Mm-hmm. But we are so proud to be that example, to show other people, there is no excuse. Don't tell me because she's pregnant or she's not, or he's going to go on paternity leave or whatnot. Yeah. It doesn't matter. And in fact, nobody asks the men, how are you going to balance it all? Oh, but your wife's pregnant. How are you going to do? Mm-hmm. We stopped that now. And we stopped it by proving that this is not a conversation piece for us. Period.
I will say jet setters just all the way around in life. But after naming me as a partner, you saw other firms starting to name women of color partners, multiple personal injury firms naming women of color partners.
That is what you call trendsetting and leading the wave. But you're not surprised because we do that. But we're doing it authentically and truly because that's what we believe in and that's our culture. I don't think that's what everyone else is doing.
I'm not even saying trending.
Try to prove me wrong.
I'm saying jet. That's how far ahead of
I know.
Everyone else kind of we always been.
But it's really a pleasure and it's really it's an honor to be able to be in a position, just all of us to come to the table and be here and do something and continue to grow something so phenomenal. And we help so many people, not only through Alder Law, but ZA lawyers. And it's beautiful. And, you see now very intimately what it is to run a business.
Yes.
Because it's not just lawyering, it is running the firm.
No,
that is another animal completely. Mm-hmm. It's another universe and it's not for the faint of heart. It is hard. It is keep you up at night. It is worry. It is a lot of change quickly, a lot of quick pivots, but nothing that's ever so traumatic that we can't ever handle it. And
I think together we are a good group.
I know we are.
We're well balanced. We listen to one another. We support one another. And we always make sure the person first is heard and comforted first before doing anything else.
Absolutely 100%. So I want to thank you for sharing your story because it's so important, especially for the female law students / lawyers out there watching this. If you're interested in going to law school, 2 great examples of what is possible. And any parting thoughts for someone maybe considering, maybe they say, well, I'm too old to do it, or I don't come from the right neighborhoods. I don't have any connections. I don't have the money. I don't, all the can'ts and shouldn'ts. How, if that ever entered your mind, did you deal with that for yourself?
I never let it be a factor. I never thought, not once, I can't do this because of my race, my gender, or my neighborhood. I never thought of that. I thought, how do I just get there?
No.
And for me, I always say now, when I go back and I go ahead and give talks to younger kids in middle school, I go, okay, you may not have currently know anybody that has done this route, but you see me, I have lived it, I have gone through it. Now you know somebody, so you can do it.
Okay. So we're going to continue our conversation and keep talking, because I think what we have here, I know what we have here is powerful, and I know representation matters. And so this conversation needs to continue, and we'll continue to inspire and change the world and help all the people that we can together.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.